Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted. I'm laughing, I'm kind of sweating, maybe a little bit out of breath. How many of you have ever had a plan and then the plan didn't work out exactly the way that you wanted it to? And sometimes we force the plan. When we force the plan, what happens is most of the time, it turns out into something that we regret and we wish that we would have been just a little bit more patient. Well, I came into the studio today and I was so excited to be able to spend time with you guys, and I took off and I opened everything up and I didn't have the word with me. And I wanted to be able to read from the word. And I thought at first I was like, oh, wow, well, I can do it on my own. And then God was saying that I can take you to these places, but you've always got to rely on me. Go get the book. So I went back and I got the book and I looked out and the sunset was starting to come up, or the sunrise was starting to come up, and I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. Then I got back to the studio and you know what? I forgot my glasses. And I thought, oh my gosh, what do I do? And God was like, just go back and get your glasses. So I walked back over and I saw the sunrise in all its glory. The first one that I saw, wasn't that great? It was cool, it was good, and it shocked me. But when I walked out, the sunrise this morning was absolutely amazing. What God was saying is, if you'll wait on me, I'll bring you exactly what I have designed for you, as opposed to you trying to force your plan and getting a lesser version of it. Proverbs 31 today is all about a godly woman, and that's exactly where we're going today. A lot of times we have a plan, we force things, we force relationships, but God has someone planned exactly for you, and that is a godly woman. And my mom told me this for my whole entire life. She said, look, seek out a godly woman. But she started telling me this in third grade. You can imagine how freaked out I was. I was like, I don't want a godly woman. I don't even know what that is. Or a Proverbs 31 woman. But as I studied Proverbs 31, it was absolutely phenomenal. Corresponding proverb, corresponding day, 3,000-year-old wisdom that we're going through. That's applicable in your business, your life, your relationships, your culture, your systems, your leadership, every aspect, but mostly in understanding and how to honor a godly woman. Let's get this party started.
Cause we believing it's for certain. We put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting right before your eyes. So it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Welcome back to this episode of Unscripted. Is Proverbs 31, the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And here we go. It's going to be rapid fire. A godly woman. This was a message from my mama. A message from my mama since I was in third grade. Imagine that. In third grade, I'm 8 years old. And my mom is telling me, you need to seek out a godly woman. I'm like, nah, Mom, I wanted that girl that's playing on the monkey bars right now. She says, a godly woman. How can you find that? In Proverbs 31. Let's go right into it. Point number 1 is, do you have a sober mind and spirit? See, in the first 2 points, what it's going to do is going to prepare the man to be able to accept and to be able to be at a level where you can have a godly woman in your life in the first place. Number 1, do you have a sober mind and spirit? In verse 4 through 7, or verse 2 through 3 is here. Listen, my son. This is my mom to me. Son of my womb, listen, my son, and answer. You are an answer to my prayers. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. And then in verse 4 through 7, do you have a sober mind? This is what my mom was lifting me up, telling me, that I was the answer to her prayers, all those things. And then we start to prepare the man. And that's from verse 4 to verse 7. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor rulers to crave beer, lest you drink and forget what has been decreed, and you deprive all the oppressed of their rights. Let beer be for those who are perishing, wine for those in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty and remember their misery no more. And at first I was like, wow, this is judgment on alcohol. It's not judgment on alcohol. It's a sober mind and a sober spirit. And what God is saying is like, as a man, if you want to have a Proverbs 31 woman, which we're going to get into here in a second, then you have to have a sober mind and a sober spirit. And to be able to take your mind where you don't have anything that deters you from a right relationship with God. And what is that? It's just a constant one. It's just being able to have a constant relationship with him. Think about brushing your teeth, making your bed, and wiping your butt. What do you have to do those? You have to do those over and over and over and over again. You have to do them every single day. See, that's the way that the relationship with God is, and that's the way that when we seek truth, we got to do it every day. It's got to be fresh every single day. Point number 2 is, are you a voice for good? In verse 8 and 9, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of those who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. God preparing a man to be able to be at a level where a Proverbs 31 woman would even give him a look. I used to think you had to have the right car, you had to have the right clothes, you had to have the right watch, you had to have all the money. But you know what God is saying? Have a sober mind, and are you a voice for good? Let's go into a godly woman. See, the first one is noble character. In verse number 10, it says, a wife of noble character who can find, she is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. Right? So think of this, noble character, that first one in verse 10. A wife of noble character who can find, she is worth far more than rubies. She's worth the most of anything. Let's go on to point number 4, which is confidence and value. Confidence and value, right? So when we look at this one, it's in verse 11, and I just read it. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. A Proverbs 31 woman has confidence, has value, and the men in her life see it. Number 5 is hard work. It's in verse 12 through 14. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. And when we look at that one, I think about my wife. Every single verse of this, I think about my wife. Does she have noble character? Yes. Does she have confidence? Yes. Does she have value? Yes. Does she have hard work? Yes. And then we go on to point number 6 is perseverance. Perseverance is verse number 15. It says, she gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family. Think about that. If you have a wife that does that, you have a wife that works through no matter what. If the light is on, the light is off, it's dark, it's whatever. We have women in our life that do this, but they need to be praised based off of those things. Here we go. Point number 7 is intelligence. And this is verse number 16. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She has the intelligence to see that field has value, and she goes out and buys it because she knows it's going to go up in value. What are the things that, as a woman, that your woman is investing in, and she's taking her intelligence? This is another aspect of a godly woman. Now, point number 8 is ingenuity. And when I read off these, it's amazing because it explains exactly who my wife is to me. I told her last night, and she always gives me a hard time. I was like, a godly woman. She's like, what's a godly woman? Just submitting to your man? That's what she said. And I said, no, baby, I'm telling you, wait till you hear what Proverbs 31 is, and it's a list, and it's celebrating this woman and celebrating you as women for all these things. Ingenuity. In verse 18, it says, she sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night, meaning that she works when other people aren't willing to work. And then we go on to point number 9, which is generosity and compassion. In verse 20, she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. Whew. Proverbs 31 woman is generous. And it's amazing because my mom, when she was telling me about a Proverbs 31 woman, you know what? She was explaining herself. And then she was praying for a Proverbs 31 woman in my life. And guess what? I got Brooklyn. And a lot of you out there are Proverbs 31 women. And a lot of you men out there have a Proverbs 31 woman that sometimes we're just not praising for the right things. Here we go. We go on to point number 10, which is prudence. In verse number 21, when it snows, she has no fear for her household, for when all of them are clothed in scarlet. In prudence, she's she understands and knows to do the things of value. In point number 11, strength and dignity, and this is in point number 25. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come, meaning she's only worrying about right now. She's prepared everything, so it doesn't matter if the snow comes, the rain comes, whatever it is. And I think about this with my wife, Brooklyn. When the rain comes, when storms hit, she's like, I'm good, baby. We have prepared, and I have prepared our household for this. I got up early. I worked. I used my ingenuity. I was generous. I had compassion. I had prudence. So now, me having strength and dignity, no problem at all. Here we go. Point number 12 is wisdom and faithfulness. A woman, Proverbs 31 woman has wisdom and faithfulness. She speaks with wisdom and faithful instruction in her tongue. Wisdom and faithfulness. Where does wisdom come from? It's from fear of God. Fear of God is respect of God. How do we get respect of God? Because we spend time with him and we understand his character, right? And so when a woman, Proverbs 31 woman, it has wisdom, it means that she's communing. She has a right relationship with God. And then she's faithful and just to that relationship. Let's go on to point number 13. It's diligence. And here we go. In diligence, I love this one. In verse number 27, she watches over her affairs of her household and she does not eat the bread of idleness. Diligence, it's right work. It's not that she's busy. She's doing the right thing. She's not in motion. She's in action. And here we go. Point number 14. She is to be cherished and praised in verse number 28. And men, hear this. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. How often do we praise our woman? In our men's group, which is in Carlsbad, every single Tuesday, and you're all invited, 7:30 to 8:30, everyone's invited, a men's group. It's incredible. And what we base it on is reading, writing, and speaking. Reading the word, writing our prayer list down, and writing a letter to our wife, our loved ones, our kids, and we write that letter, and then we speak life to each other. And here we go. In point number 15, honor and nobility. And this is verse 29 through 31. And listen to this. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. This is me talking to my wife. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. Meaning not only praise your woman in private around your home, but do it publicly so she sees how much you value her. And see, what I learned about this, and then point number 16 is simply her beauty, is to be appreciated for her beauty. But watch this. Here we go. Imagine this. I thought that my wife wanted to be complimented based off of her beauty. And I would tell her, oh, baby, you're so hot, because she is. If you know my wife, she is hot as could be. But I started to realize she didn't really respond as much. But then what God was saying is compliment her on her noble character. Compliment her on her confidence, her value, her hard work, her perseverance, her intelligence, her ingenuity, her generosity, her compassion, her prudence, her strength, her dignity, her wisdom, her faithfulness, her diligence, her honor, her nobility. And then finally, praise her on her beauty. And when that happens, the woman is lifted up and she can accept the compliment of just her outer beauty. What we learned in our men's group, which was wild, is when we read through this corresponding proverb, corresponding day. This is the 31st proverb. It's the end of the month. But you had to go through all these proverbs to be able to look at what a godly woman was, a Proverbs 31 woman. And one of the guys in the group, his name is Craig, he said, you know what? You know what God is saying to all of us? He said he's given us all the 30 about character and wisdom and diligence and knowledge and understanding, getting us ready to be able to deserve a Proverbs 31 woman in our life and be able to sustain her. And if we adhere to the first 30, you have the opportunity to be able to have 31 in your life. Think of this. See, God gives us a roadmap through the first 30 Proverbs to become the type of man that can truly honor a Proverbs 31 woman. And to all you Proverbs 31 women out there, I want to applaud you. I want to encourage you, and I want to tell you that you're absolutely incredible. And I want to recognize, here we go, As we finish today, I want to recognize your noble character. I want to recognize your confidence, your value, your hard work, your perseverance, your intelligence, your ingenuity, your generosity, your compassion, your prudence, your strength and dignity, your wisdom, your faithfulness, your diligence, your honor, your nobility, and finally, your beauty. Proverbs 31 woman I thought was the craziest thing in the world when my mom told me when I was in third grade, but now I realize that I am so blessed to have a woman named Brooklyn in my life that is a Proverbs 31 woman, the corresponding proverb, corresponding day, 3,000-year-old wisdom that is applicable today in your leadership, your relationships, your systems, your culture, your business, every aspect of your life. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Unscripted. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.